We are less than a week out from UFC 300, and it's time for me to give my breakdown and prediction for every single fight on this amazing card. I can hardly contain my smile and excitement. Guys, this is going to be a long one, probably the longest breakdown in the history of YouTube. Okay, probably not. We might not go over an hour, but this is going to be a long prediction video. If you just want to hear a take of mine on a couple of these fights, make sure to check the timestamps in the description. And without further ado, let's get into these unbelievably stacked prelims, starting with Deiveson Figueiredo and Cody Garbandt. I think Figgy's got something nasty up his sleeve. That's right. I think we're going to see the return of the villain Figueiredo, who's coming in here to pull off the heist over Cody Garbandt, the longtime fan favorite who's fighting on his home soil. I think Figgy is going to catch him with a bomb. So Cody Garbandt is getting a little bit of hype because, of course, he's coming off of a couple of wins. But listen, I'm not fooled. He beat Trevin Jones. And who else did he beat? The ghost of Brian Kelleher, who's got pillow hands, who's a bit of an old head. Cody Garbrandt's the same guy. Now, I understand he's taken a little bit more of a measured approach to these fights. But as far as I'm concerned, Cody Garbandt has taken a measured approach in his last, 3 fights before he won his last 2. He took a measured approach against Rob Font. He got his ass whooped for 5 rounds. He took a measured approach against Kai Kara-France. Kai Kara-France caught him off guard with a speedy right hand, and that started the finishing sequence. And he started with a measured approach against, Rafael Assunção, ended up knocking him out. But Rafael Assunção was an old head and isn't Deiveson Figueiredo and isn't as fast and as dangerous as Deiveson Figueiredo. Cody Garbandt just looks a lot different because he's in front of guys that don't have the ability to make him pay, where he can just style on them because he's fast, right? That's kind of all I see from Deiveson Figueiredo. He's just fast, and he emotes on people, and he's doing his Irish jig, and he's getting caught up in the hype. Right? You can style all you want. You're throwing 2 punches around. Okay? You got 1 flurry in you per round. I don't think that's enough. I don't think that I can pick a guy that kind of banks on 1 big bomb. All right? And as far as I'm concerned, the grappling isn't really going to play a part. Deiveson Figueiredo's got phenomenal grappling. He's got really good defensive grappling. He's got good takedown defense. He's even got some sneaky ability to take someone down. He showed that against Rob Font in his last fight. He's got really good entries because he's bringing up that speed from the flyweight division. And he's got a good submission game too, right? But Garbandt, good wrestling defense, big, powerful blast double legs. He's got him as well. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of grappling. But again, I'm going with Deiveson Figueiredo because in my opinion, he kind of does what Cody Garbandt does, but much better. Okay, not only is he more durable, he's also a bit of a slow starter. He's also tentative, and he looks for his moments. But compared to a guy like Garbandt, Figueiredo is going to be the output guy. He's going to be the one that's throwing more shots. And I think this is, as I said, I think this is going to end up looking a whole lot like Cody Garbandt and Kai Kara-France. I think that we're going to see Cody Garbandt starting slow, jittery, being wary of the power of Deiveson Figueiredo and the speed. And I think that he's going to take Deiveson Figueiredo's slow start as something that makes him feel comfortable enough to just kind of, let me bide my time, let me get in the groove. And I think Figueiredo's going to catch him off guard with something really fast, like an overhand or maybe an uppercut, maybe some counter. I just think he's going to catch him off guard with a big, nasty shot in the first round. And I think it's all going to go downhill from there. As soon as Cody Garbandt gets rocked, I see Figueiredo following up, putting him out. And once again, we're going to see that Cody Garbandt is a one-hit wonder that was able to beat a pillow hands Cruz, who was a good fighter at the time. Absolutely. Cruz is really good, but he's not dangerous. And that was a one amazing night for Cody Garbandt. But I don't think he's going to be able to recreate that amazing night. And also, Deiveson Figueiredo is better at what Cody Garbandt does, finding the big moments, finding the big shots. He was looking really fast in front of Rob Font. I know Font doesn't have the best chin, but neither does Cody Garbandt. And there were many moments where Font was landing his long-rangey 1-2 on Figgy, and Figgy would eat it, and he would counter with a big hook, a clean hook. He would slip off and counter with a nice uppercut, and he would rock Rob Font. But Font hasn't gotten KO'd as many times as Cody Garbandt. We usually see Font recover. Garbandt, not so much. You rock this guy once, he's on his way out. So I'm going to go with Deiveson Figueiredo first round KO. Let's get on to the next one. Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. We're going to take a risk. I'm picking Jim Miller, all right? Now, Jim Miller was my initial pick when this fight got announced. But the more I thought of it, the more I started to lean towards Bobby Green, thinking of that big cage. Because Jim Miller's been fighting at the Apex, and we know that the Apex is a lot smaller. At least the octagon in the Apex is significantly smaller than the octagon that they use in these stadium events. And that's going to be really useful for Bobby Green because the guys that have knocked out Bobby Green, like Drew Dober, for example, really benefited from the small cage. And I'm thinking that, yeah, Bobby Green gets knocked out by Jalin Turner and he gets knocked out by Drew Dober. Turner's got the longest reach in the lightweight division. He's insanely fast. And, of course, we got a guy like Drew Dober who's got the granite chin and he's at the Apex in a small cage and he's able to take a beating and eventually he knocks Bobby Green out and he's got more power than Jim Miller. He's like a bigger, younger, more powerful version of Miller. So I was thinking maybe Bobby Green just holds him off with a lot of good output. Bit of a slow starter. Maybe he gets rocked early and survives and just gets into that flow state and starts piecing up Miller, who is taking such a big jump up in competition from these Apex guys like Benitez and, Mota, the guys he's been beating up and subbing and knocking out. And maybe Bobby Green just is able to cruise to a decision. But I'm picking Jim Miller to win this fight. I'm trusting in his craftiness. Okay, Jim Miller's crafty. Very crafty, and he's durable. The last time Jim Miller's been KO'd, I believe it's 2017 against Dan Hooker. That is the only KO loss he has in his entire career. And it was a knee. It was like a flush knee up the middle, something that would KO most people. He's got a granite chin, and he's sturdy. Jim Miller's really sturdy. And Bobby Green, yes, he knocked out Grant Dawson early. Yeah, he knocked out Ali Quinta. Grant Dawson had absolutely nothing in his head that night. He had a hollow head. Ali Quinta was done. He was washed. Jim Miller is making a comeback. And I just can see. I can see because, of course, there's this big thing brewing with the way Bruce Buffer is going to announce his name. And everyone knows Jim Miller's fought on 200. He's fought on 100. He's like the longest tenured UFC fighter. He's 42, I believe, or 40 years old. I could just see in my head Jim Miller fucking up Bobby Green, getting the win, and the crowd going bonkers, the crowd going berserk, and him having this like huge moment in his career where he really becomes a big star for the first, because Miller's never really been a big star, but now that he's kind of like the new cowboy, I think this is it for him. Now, the reason I think he's going to KO Bobby Green, because I am picking him by KO. Maybe a submission, but Bobby Green's got decent wrestling and he's got good instincts on the ground. Sure, he got finished by Makhachev, but I'm not really relating Miller to Makhachev. I think Jim Miller can take a whooping early. And I think Jim Miller, I trust in his chin against pillow hands, T-Rex arms, Bobby Green. Doesn't have the longest reach. When he's not knocking out Grant Dawson with a fluke KO, I'm not saying it was total fluke, but come on, dude. One punch KO from Bobby Green, we hardly ever see that. Usually, people are able to take an absolute whooping from this guy. I think Jim Miller can. I think he's going to be sturdy. I think he's going to be chopping at that leg of Bobby Green. He's got a really nice low kick, and he turns over his hips all the way, and he's able to add it at the end of his combinations. So he's not just going to be headhunting. And I think that I trust this guy to eventually get in the pocket and land a big meaty hook on the chin of Bobby Green, who gets rocked in like every single one of his fights. Got sat down by Tony Ferguson and rocked by Tony Ferguson. Of course, got KO'd in his last fight, took a fuckload of damage. I can't believe I haven't even mentioned that, but if anything's going to help Jim Miller get the KO this time, it may be the latest stoppage of 2023. He's also got that on his side. Unfortunately for Bobby Green, that is not going to help his chin. It's only going to make it worse. Bobby Green got knocked out by Dober. He gets dropped. He gets dropped in his fights. And he doesn't have a ton of power. So even though people usually get whooped up by Bobby Green, and I think he's going to have a significant speed advantage, Miller's no slouch. And the way he knocked out Mota, Nicholas Mota, he freaking leaped in there. He leaped across the octagon. He covered like 10 feet of distance with a nice leaping in hook. He could catch you off guard with something sneaky just because he's an old man. and he's got this weird frog-like physique. Doesn't mean he can't catch you with something sneaky. I'm trusting in Jim Miller. He's crafty. He's going to stay composed. He's going to be able to mix it up. If he gets rocked, I think he can shoot a takedown. Eventually, he's going to find the chin. And I just see the stars aligning and him having a big moment, just knocking Bobby Green out. So I'm going to go with a second or third round KO from Jim Miller. I think he's going to beat up the legs early of Bobby Green, take a bit of a whoop, and eventually find that big hook to put him out up against the fence. Crowd goes bonkers. We're going with the riskier pick. Let's get on to the next one. Bobby Green could win a decision. I'm not picking him, though. Suspect chin. Let's get on to the next one. Jalin Turner versus Renato Moicano. Amazing fight. I love this one, and I'm more hyped for this than when it was originally announced, because my first thought was, this is just too much for Renato Moicano. But Jalin Turner has struggled with grapplers. I rewatched that Mateusz Gamrot fight, and Gamrot can't hold anyone down to save his life. Who was he able to hold down? Jalin Turner. He was able to hold him down at times. Now, Jalin Turner eventually got up, but even the third round, Gamrot had like 2 minutes of control on him, landed a bunch of pitter-pat shots, and that's not the best look when a guy that has no ability to control people can hold you down. Fair enough. That was a short notice replacement for Jalin Turner, and he didn't have a camp that was preparing for a wrestler. But we've also seen Jalin Turner get out-grappled in other fights as well. And listen, Renato Moicano, he's got excellent takedowns. He's got really good body lock takedowns. And he can chain them together really well if the first one gets stuffed. I could see him taking down Jalin Turner and just kind of stinking it up in half guard like he did to Drew Dober, right? Because he was getting rocked in that fight. And he's got really good entries, really quick entries. I could see him winning a decision. Maybe even getting beaten up early. Jalin Turner blows his wad like he did against Dan Hooker, and Renato Moicano is in there in the third round, finds his moments, gets a takedown, takes the back when Jalin Turner's tired and chokes him out. But I'm going to go with Jalin Turner still, dude. I just think he's so much more dangerous than any of the people Renato's has been fighting recently outside of Drew Dober, but Drew Dober's short and stubby, and he really needs to close that distance by putting himself in harm's way of a takedown, whereas Jalin Turner, he can catch you with head kicks at a distance, front kicks. He's got a really good body kick, and I think that the long, rangy shots of Jalin Turner are going to be a big issue because he has similar power to Drew Dober, and he's going to be hard to take down early because he is a big lightweight. He has a big frame advantage over most of his opponents, and that usually makes it easier to stuff takedowns. And I just think eventually he's going to crack Renato Moicano with a left hand that's going to wobble him. I think he's going to put him out up against the fence and stop him early because not many people can deal with the speed and the power of Jalin Turner early on in fights. And Moicano's been finished a lot in his career. You know, he's been put away by Rafael Fiziev. He's even been dropped by RDA with head kicks. He's been put away by, what's his name? TKZ. He's been put away by Jose Aldo. And he's not really looking as dangerous on the ground as he used to. And I don't think he's in his prime anymore. So I just think he's going to get hurt early with a very composed Jalin Turner who's going to make it a point to pick and choose his shots and moments. And he's very accurate, which is good too. And I just think he's going to crack Moicano coming in. And I think he's going to wobble him and put him away. First round KO for Jalin Turner. Let's get on to the next one. Sodiq Yusuff versus Diego Lopes. I'm going to go with Diego Lopes. He's got that aura. Okay? I know that's not the only reason why I'm picking him, but it's part of it. It's part of it. Diego Lopes is really reminding me of Charles Oliveira. He's got nasty power in his left hook. He's got a nasty left hook. He's got a nasty right hook. He's been putting away guys within the first minute. Okay, he knocked out Pat Sabatini within a minute. The same shot that he landed on Evloev a few times, but Evloev's got a pretty decent chin. And of course, we saw what he did to Gavin Tucker. Submitted him within the first grappling exchange. I don't really see the best ability to adjust from Sodiq Yusuff. I mean, he almost had Edson Barboza out of there early on in his last fight. If you haven't watched that, that is one of the most underrated fights ever. I think that has to be at least a top 2 or 3 fight of 2023. Rewatch that fight. I call it the craftiest performance ever from Edson Barboza because he literally was like on the verge of getting stopped multiple times in the first round, came back to win, had a bunch of good adjustments. But Sodiq Yusuff just was not able to adjust at all in that fight. He jumped on like a takedown or a grappling opportunity when he had Barboza rocked. And I think Diego Lopes is more durable than Barboza. I think he can endure an early storm and weather it because he does have a pretty excellent chin. He was taking some big bombs from Evloev. And I know you guys are going to be saying Evloev is pillow punches. Yeah, he does, but, you know, he's got some thud on them. It's not like he's got absolutely nothing in his hands. Sure, he doesn't have heavy hands like Sodiq Yusuff, but we say heavy hands like Sodiq Yusuff. Dude, Sodiq Yusuff is going to decisions with, like, Alex Caceres, bro. Okay? Sodiq Yusuff has Edson, you know, I hate to say it, chinny Edson Barboza in front of him for 5 rounds. Now, Edson Barboza's crafty as fuck, right? And he's, like, a really high fight IQ fighter, but still, Sodiq Yusuff isn't finishing Andre Fili. We just saw what Dan Ige did to him, right? And I know Ige's got nasty power. I'm just saying he's not the heaviest handed dude in the world. He went to a decision with Xiaonan Morais. Like, I just think Diego Lopes's chin is excellent. And I think Sodiq Yusuff's chin is suspect, okay? I think he's suspect. He's got a suspect chin. Not him, but he's got a suspect chin. Diego Lopes is putting everyone away ASAP, all right? He's got a marauder type beat to him. I don't mean to be Joe Rogan, but it's true. He's a marauder. Okay, he's an assassin. And I think he's going to finish this motherfucker. Early on, big punch, big right hook, boom. I think it's going to get real nasty in the pocket. And I think Diego Lopes is going to be eating some big bombs from Sodiq Yusuff. He's going to be marching forward like this, sticking behind the 1-2. He's going to be in here. I always talk about if I'm in here, I'm pretty good. Sodiq Yusuff is going to be in here, but the thing is, being in there don't matter if you're in front of the next Charles Oliveira. Eventually, he's going to find your chin. And again, Sodiq Yusuff, he gets rocked in his fights, man. He's got a bit of a suspect chin. I think Diego Lopes knocks his ass out. I'm going to go with the first round KO for Diego Lopes. I think the guys with the auras are getting it done on UFC 300, okay? And if Sodiq Yusuff shoots a takedown when he's rocked or something like that, or jumps on Diego Lopes when he has Diego rocked, I think that might be the way it ends as well. Diego Lopes could wrap him up in a submission, one of the nastiest submission threats in that division. I got Diego, man. Big featherweight, so he's not going to get bullied around by Sodiq Yusuff, who's also like a pretty heavily muscled guy in that division. He's tall, he's got the reach advantage, and of course we know he's well-rounded. I think all it takes is one big hook from Diego Lopes. One big hook, the right hook, or the right hand, just a straight right. It's all it takes to get Sodiq Yusuff to do the jitterbug. And I think he's knocking his ass out. Let's get on to the next one. Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. I am so tempted to pick Holly Holm right now, just because I think Kayla Harrison's overrated as fuck. Okay? She is so one-dimensional, man. I've been watching her fights tonight. I saw that fight that she lost in the PFL against Pacheco or whatever her name is. She's not impressive. She has horrible striking. I mean, listen, horrible striking is not a new phenomenon in WMMA, but it's atrocious. She's slow. She's got really nothing going. A little calf kick and some sloppy boxing. But she's big. And she's got a judo gold medal that she actually uses, right? And she's got decent wrestling. She's going to have the size advantage, and she is also going to have the youth advantage. I think she's literally like 10 years younger than Holly Holm. Harrison, I believe, is 33, 34. Holly Holm's like 42, 43. I got to go with Kayla Harrison, man. I want to pick Holly Holm. She's not in her prime. She doesn't have the same dangerous, quick twitch ability that she used to. Her shots just don't look like they have as much torque on them anymore. She's not generating as much power like she was when she was fighting Ronda Rousey and other girls back in the day. And because Holly Holm just doesn't have that same finishing ability that she used to, I kind of trust in Kayla Harrison to kind of stink this one out. Now, Holly Holm has good takedown defense, and she's been making the clinch her home. Don't mean to, have the pun included, but she's been making the clinch her home, Holly Holm. And that's a good thing. That's a good sign, right? Because she's getting used to the grappling. She's getting really comfortable in on close quarters where Kayla Harrison's going to be meeting her. So it's possible Holly Holm could really make it difficult for Kayla Harrison to get those takedowns. And I could see Kayla Harrison gassing out hard due to that weight cut. Everyone's worrying about if she's going to make weight. She's a former 45er. She's moving down to 135. I think she's going to make weight just fine. All she has to do is hop off the sauce and stop lifting as much weights, and I think she'll do it. But her gas tank may suffer, right? She still is not used to competing at that weight, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be the first time she's doing it. Holly Holm might be able to beat her up in the third round or maybe even chin her. You know, I could see some kind of a Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena moment where we see Kayla Harrison just kind of underestimate Holly Holm, or maybe just gas out really hard like Amanda Nunes did after she like goes crazy early on. I could see Holly Holm winning this, but I mean, I'm kind of given all the reasons to pick Holly Holm, right? I want to go with Holly Holm. I just think that people are going to clown me if I get it wrong. Should I go with Holly Holm? She's 43 though, man. And she's not really been getting any finishes lately. And she's just kind of smudging people up against the fence. And it's like, on one hand, clinch grappling, when you get good at it, that's like a good thing against grapplers. But at the same time, you're going to be in there with a judo Olympic gold medalist that has amazing trips. Yeah, fuck it, dude. I'm actually going with Kayla Harrison. I'm not taking the risk. I'm going with Kayla Harrison. Holly Holm's been clinching it up recently, and I think there's no worse opponent to clinch it up with than a judoka at the highest level, all right? And maybe Holly Holm can get a finish in the third, but she's not been putting anyone away. She's not as powerful as she used to be. So I'm going to go with Kayla Harrison over Holly Holm, okay? Let's get on to the next one. Calvin Kattar, Aljamain Sterling. I think Calvin Kattar's knocking Aljo the fuck out, okay? Now, I love Aljamain Sterling. He is one of my favorite bantamweights, one of my favorite fighters in general. It's going to be rough to see this, and I really want him to win because listen, I like Calvin Kattar, but I'm not that big of a fan of him, right? I'm a big fan of Aljo. I think Calvin's going to knock him out. Before I started watching tape on these guys, I was saying to myself, that takedown defense of Calvin Kattar is a fucking myth. Like, who's really out here trying to shoot a takedown on him? I'm sure he's stuffing a couple per fight, but I mean, come on, it can't be that great. Now, it's been a minute since Calvin Kattar's been fighting, and we don't really think of the few and far between grappling exchanges from his fights, but goodness, dude, this guy is a fucking brick wall. And I think he's KOing Aljo, right? Because think about it like this. Calvin Kattar is shucking off big, powerful guys in the 45-pound weight class. He's shucking off Josh Emmett, not a great grappler by any means. Fair enough. Ige, not a great grappler by any means. But the point that I'm making is Calvin Kattar is getting these guys off of him with ease. Like, and I saw Dan Ige with a high crotch single leg, and he was really making Calvin Kattar work, and Calvin Kattar stuffs it, gets out just fine. Like, he's getting out of these bad positions really quick. He's able to get the whizzer when he's taken down, and he instantly pops back up to his feet, and he's not exposing his back. And Aljo, even though he's going to be big and strong, and I think he's feeling healthy and rejuvenated, he's not got to have that hard weight cut, and he can actually focus on just getting better and skill building. And I think that as a guy that loves to take the back and just bully people on the ground, his new added muscle and strength is going to make him feel like he's unstoppable in there. But he's not got the best wrestling, right? And I know Jan has really good takedown defense. And I know some of these other guys, Aljo's not able to take down consistently of good takedown defense, but Aljo never lands his takedowns at a high clip. He never does, right? He's getting like 2 takedowns on Jan in both of their fights. He had 4 takedowns and had like 55 stuffed between the 2 Jan fights. He's not able to take down O'Malley at all. And O'Malley had like a messed up rib, and we saw what Jan was able to do to O'Malley. Sure, he was able to take down Henry Cejudo, but Henry's old, man. Henry's not got that tall but, sturdy build of Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar's got the perfect build to stuff takedowns. He's not only got a long frame, but he's also got like a good amount of muscle, and he's built sturdy for the 45-pound weight class. Now, we know we're not worried about that chin of Calvin Kattar. Let's just say that. Calvin Kattar's got a granite chin. I don't think Aljamain Sterling is coming over the top with a Kamaru Usman style of right hand, knocking out Jorge Masvidal for the first time in his career or some shit like that. I don't think Aljo's coming out with any power. Aljo doesn't have the best boxing. He's not got the best striking anyway. He's going to be sitting there, pitter-pat kicks at range, trying to showcase the thunk. And for the first time since O'Malley, to be honest, but he got knocked out in the O'Malley fight. Let's just erase the O'Malley fight. He's been fighting little guys with T-Rex arms. Jan with a 68-inch reach. Pedro Munoz with a 66-inch reach. Henry Cejudo with a 65-inch reach. Now he's up against Calvin Kattar, who has a 1-inch reach advantage over him. And Calvin Kattar doesn't just have a reach advantage. He uses his reach advantage over everyone. Calvin Kattar throws with output. He throws with intent. And he makes it a point to sit out at range and snipe people with his boxing. And he follows through with combinations. And the power that he generates at the end of these shots is nasty. And sure, he's not knocking out Dan Ige, but he's hurting him and he's rocking him. Sure, he's not knocking out Josh Emmett, who's got the meaty head, but at least he's wobbling him and he's keeping him honest. Aljamain Sterling, who makes questionable decisions, who's able to get away with things with his irresponsible defense at bantamweight with the funky style. I just don't think he can afford to play that same game in front of Calvin Kattar, who can throw with output, who has decent speed and a really good long-rangey boxing style with power as well, with nasty uppercuts too. He's got good uppercuts. He's got good elbows. He's got good knees. So he's not just throwing 1-2s. Calvin Kattar will catch you with a knee. Calvin Kattar will catch you with a spinning elbow. Like, he's got sneaky attacks like that. And Aljo just doesn't land at a high clip. And I just think that he's going to be a little bit slower with this new weight. He's looking a little bit puffy. And I think he could take the back of Calvin Kattar, but let's think about it. How often do we really see Aljo backpacking anyone on the feet? Sure, he did it to Sandhagen for a second before Sandhagen fell to the mat and he was able to get the choke, but he's not like Formiga that's just constantly backpacking people on the feet, or Askarov or whatever. I don't think he's going to get the back of Calvin Kattar for 3 rounds. And even if he does, like, Kattar's been preparing in that position. I guarantee you all training camp. Aljamain doesn't submit everyone. It's been a minute since we've seen an Aljamain submission, okay? It's literally been since what? Corey Sandhagen? The TJ Dillashaw fight doesn't count. This dude has power. He uses his reach better than most guys in the featherweight division. He's a brick wall when it comes to the takedown defense. Aljo's coming off of a KO. He makes a lot of mistakes on the feet. He does not have a reach and range advantage this time. Sure, he might be a little bit fast and hard to get to and hard to hit, but eventually Kattar's gonna let his hands go quite a lot, and he's gonna start throwing with some output, and he's gonna start catching Aljamain. Maybe Aljamain's gonna shoot 20 takedowns, because that's what he will do sometimes. Aljo will shoot, and shoot some more just to try to frustrate his opponents, and maybe we'll see Aljamain just eventually on the 18th attempt get the back, and maybe he gets it twice in a fight. But I think Calvin Kattar's going to be strong, man. I think he's going to be really strong. And I think he's going to be able to punish Aljo when he misses a takedown attempt. Maybe he's going to be able to just, on the way up when Aljo's standing up and he's just gotten off of the mat, Kattar can snipe him with an uppercut while he's on his way up. I'm going with Calvin Kattar. I think he's knocking Aljo out. Second round, KO for Calvin Kattar. I am a little bit worried because he's coming off of a long layoff. He had a serious injury. I think it was like an ACL tear. It is worrisome, especially when he's going to be grappling a lot in this fight, but he's used to it, man. Not really. He's not really used to grappling, but he's at least used to stuffing takedowns. He's always had it. And it's not like Calvin Kattar's got the craziest footwork. I think he'll be fine, man. He's a brick wall. I think he'll be fine. I think he's KOing Aljo. And Aljo's just got nothing on the feet to be dangerous, man. Nothing on the feet to be dangerous. So I don't think Calvin has to respect him up there. Let's get on to the next one. Jiri Prochazka versus Aleksander Rakic. Jiri Prochazka is going to knock Aleksander Rakic the fuck out. And he's going to teach him a lesson for talking all that shit. Now, I love this matchup. This is a little bit of a mental battle between these guys. Aleksander Rakic is trying to big brother Jiri. He's saying you're a fake samurai. This is a joke. Well, you were a hooligan when you were a kid, and you finally figure out how to chill out, and you're calling yourself like a Zen samurai, like you're a monk? Look at this. He's calling him a LARPer. He's literally calling him a LARPer. Jiri Prochazka takes that shit serious. He literally said in an interview, shut up, right? Jiri Prochazka said, shut up to Aleksander Rakic. Jiri Prochazka takes this seriously, okay? So he's got Jiri pissed off. I could see Rakic maybe having the mental edge, getting Jiri Prochazka to freak out a little bit in the octagon and make mistakes and be emotional. But, you know, the more I think of it, I don't think you want to get in Jiri's head. I think that the more Rakic trash talks, the more focused and zen Jiri becomes. Okay? I think we're going to see Jiri roll in the cage and the freaking weather's going to change and we're going to hear lightning strikes out the back. And I think all the stars are going to align for this guy. Jiri is a special cat. He has a fucking holy ghost watching over him during his fights. And if it wasn't for sneaky Mark Goddard with his early stoppages, that pesky Mark Goddard, maybe Jiri would have won. The Holy Ghost was there. The spirit, the MMA gods were there with Jiri, but Mark Goddard fucking ruined it all. We don't know what would happen. Now, listen, let's get serious for a second. There is actually a beef going on. Again, I don't think any of this is going to get to Jiri's head. Rakic is trying to big brother him or whatever. What's Rakic got in this fight? Let's get honest. Let's get real. Rakic is a massive light heavyweight. He's probably the biggest light heavyweight on the roster. He's got these huge quads. He's got like these centaur legs, and that's the best part of his game. It's how explosive he is with his kicks and with his takedowns. He's got really nasty leg kicks, which is going to be worrisome for Jiri Prochazka because we saw what happened in Yuri's last fight against Pereira, who's also got nasty low kicks, and it really took away that necessary movement of Jiri, who needs that movement to propel himself forward and to be unorthodox and all over the place. Rakic could chip away at the legs. Rakic also has some of the scariest head kicks in MMA because, again, very heavy dude, huge guy, and has like these huge quads. You'd expect him to be a little bit less agile with the way that he kicks or whatever and have less dexterity, but dude, his kicks are nasty. Like, they come out of nowhere. People barely get out of the way of them. But I think Jiri Prochazka is going to be zoned in, and I think he's going to be ready for these kicks. If Rakic doesn't head kick KO him, which doesn't happen that often, could he get to Yuri's legs, take away the base, and kind of take a very measured approach and eventually get the takedown? Because Rakic is going to have a big weight advantage over Jiri. Although Jiri is a pretty long guy for the division, and he is tall and he's in shape and whatnot, like, he is giving up 20 pounds to Rakic, who again looks like a bodybuilder in there. I could see Rakic stinking it up. I could see it, but Yuri's got a good ability to get up to his feet. Reyes took him down, Jiri got up. Glover took him down, Jiri got up. Okay, now Rakic is, again, a bigger guy than Reyes and Glover, but Yuri's got decent technique on the ground, and he's got decent technique when it comes to his takedown defense. The reason why I'm picking Jiri to knock Rakic the fuck out, I say he's going to smoke him down the pipe with a nice right hand, is because Rakic is just a rudimentary boxer. Rakic has a 1-2, and it's a shitty 1-2. That's all he does. Rinse and repeat, shitty 1-2s. And he doesn't have a really long reach. He doesn't have devastating KO power with his hands. And he's been dropped before, and he's been hurt before. He got hurt by Jan Blachowicz. He got dropped by Devin Clark. He's getting hurt by these awkward guys. And I was watching the Jan Blachowicz fight especially, where that's the fight in which he injured himself. Let's also talk about that. Rakic is coming off of a really long layoff. He's been out for 2 years. Ring rust. Jiri Prochazka had some ring rust against Alex Pereira, coming off of that shoulder injury. Didn't look as fast and explosive as he normally did. Didn't get brutally finished. I actually think that that's going to help Jiri. Not only losing and, coming back with a chip on his shoulder and really trying to get a whole lot better with his defense and whatnot, but he didn't take a lot of damage. It's like he lost, but he didn't have the devastating consequences that most people would have coming off of a loss against Alex Pereira, right? And he also fought the best leg kicker in the UFC or in the heavier weight classes, who has better low kicks than Aleksander Rakic. Rakic has great low kicks, but they're much more telegraphed and they're easier to see coming. And I could see Jiri Prochazka preparing really well for them and just barely getting out of the way of them, whereas it's really hard to do that against Pereira, who doesn't telegraph him at all. But again, Rakic has been out for a long time, okay? He's coming off of this horrible knee injury. He's going to be a little bit rusty. His boxing has never been that good. Even though he's got a similar reach, Jiri Prochazka fights a much like rangier style. He's got wiry punches. And I just think that Jiri's going to rock Rakic with a right hand. I think he's going to rock him with a right hand. And I think he's going to, as soon as he rocks him, he's going to put him away. KO for Jiri Prochazka. That 1-2, it's not enough, man. It ain't enough. Jan Blachowicz was beating this guy's ass. And I know that Jan Blachowicz is obviously really high level, but when you have that rudimentary striking, I don't think it's going to work against Jiri Prochazka. I don't. Like, the only way Rakic wins this fight, in my opinion, is by stinking it up in the grappling. Sure, he might be able to rock Jiri Prochazka and put him away, but, you know, that left hook that Alex Pereira landed was perfectly placed. It's like, you know, Rakic doesn't have that shit, man. He doesn't have the crispiest left hook in MMA. His 1-2, it's not that long, and it's just the same thing over and over again. 1-2, 1-2. He looks like a typical uneasy wrestler that's just trying to throw the same shit to close the distance, just to give you some looks. He's like Khabib, but it's the light heavyweight Khabib with the 1-2, and it's less technical. Again, it's not like Jiri Prochazka is Mr. Clean on the feet, but he's a more natural striker, and he's more dangerous, and he's got vicious KO power. And sure, he wasn't able to show it that much against Alex Pereira, but he had a little bit of ring rust. He was starting to heat up in that fight, but Pereira just caught him with that perfect left hook and had the best low kicks in the upper weight classes. Sure, Rakic has good low kicks, but I think Jiri is going to have a better ability to get out of the way of those. I just don't see Rakic being dangerous enough for this guy. Jiri's durable. He's durable. He didn't even get put out in his last fight. Didn't even take that much damage. He's knocking Rakic the fuck out, man. I'm telling you. He's gonna rock him early with a right hand, down the pipe. Okay, downhill. Maybe even counter Rakic. Maybe he gets hit a couple times by Rakic. He's gonna be in there beating his chest. All right, he said he's gonna talk to him in the cage too. So we're gonna see a Jiri Prochazka conversation in the cage for the first time. I'd hate to piss Jiri off, bro. Not the type of guy you want to piss off going into a fight, bro, because that's only going to make him more focused. So this might be a cope pick. I might be coping with this one because Rakic does have like a 20-pound weight advantage, and he might, because he's coming off of the injury, just make a point to grapple only. Rakic isn't always going to his grappling as a number one game plan, though. He does entertain the striking a lot, and I just think that he doesn't have the same craftiness and ability to keep range like Pereira. I think we're going to see the difference from a guy fighting a glory kickboxing 6-time world champion to a decent light heavyweight on the feet that just has a size advantage over everyone. And also, let me just say this. Jiri Prochazka's got a really good ability to take a beating and still come back strong. I mean, we saw it in the Glover Teixeira fight, even in the Alex Pereira fight. His leg was getting chewed up, and even in the second round, after he had fallen a couple of times due to low kicks, he was still in there. He was still getting in his face. He was making it work. Jiri's a dog, and I think he's going to make it work against Rakic, okay? Who, again, not that dangerous on the feet behind his little technical strikes, okay? If he doesn't land that head kick, he doesn't get those not sloppy, he has clean takedowns. I'm starting to shit on him a little bit. But if he doesn't get those double legs with his 1,000-pound weight advantage, then I think Jiri knocks him out, okay? Bo Nickal versus Cody Brundage. I think that Cody Brundage has a better chance of storming the beaches of Normandy by himself and winning than beating Bo Nickal, okay? Cody Brundage is a quitter. Let's just say that. He quit against Jacob Malkoun due to a little minor inconvenience, back of the head smudge. Not even a head elbow, back of the head elbow, or a back of the head hammer fist. A little smudge to the back of the head. That was it, just a little smudge. And he quit, right? Sure, he's coming off of a good win, but he got a takedown. This guy went for a submission on him, and he just slammed him. Is he going to slam Bo Nickal? I don't think so. I don't think he's going to slam the multiple-time Division I championship wrestler that only didn't make the Olympics because the guy that won the gold medal beat him in the trials. Bo is one of the highest level wrestlers to ever grace the sport of MMA. And he's got crazy KO power too. And people are shitting on him. I understand it's a little bit annoying that he's on the main card. I totally get that. But He's got great instincts when it comes to fighting. And I could just see it with the eye test, man. Really good instincts. The way he set up that KO over Val Woodburn was a thing of beauty. Feinting, the takedown, coming up high with the overhand, the lead overhand. And Cody Brundage has been finished multiple times. I don't think he beats Bo. I think this is a can against Bo Nickal. Crazy KO power. Amazing takedown, submission game. If Bo wants to take him down, he'll take him down, right? And there are some guys that transition to MMA with a high level of wrestling. They're not able to submit anyone, like Henry Cejudo, for example. Bo is working on that submission game. He's taken a lot of time off. It's been, 10 months since his last performance? That's a lot of time to improve for a young guy like Bo. Cody Brundage is a lamb being led to the slaughter. I'm going to go with Bo Nickal by a first-round KO or a first-round submission. Definitely a finish. If Cody Brundage wins this, I'm going to issue him an apology, though, because I am really disrespecting his chances to win this one, as I should. The UFC's got to give Bo a tougher test. Let's get on to the next one. Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. I'm going to pick Charles by second-round KO. A lot of finishes on this card, dude. I mean, have I even picked a single decision? This is crazy. A lot of finishes on this card, man. I'm going with Charles. And I'm picking this dude. Oh, I think I did pick Kayla Harrison by decision. Charles by second round KO. I think he's going to get taken down early. And I think we're going to see something very similar to what we saw in Charles' last fight. Where Arman takes him down and finds out the hard way that this ain't Joaquim Silva. Okay? This ain't Joel Alvarez. This is the submission king who nobody since way back in the day 2016, 2017 has been able to get the better of on the ground. Nobody can manipulate this guy and beat him up, and that's really what it is. Arman Tsarukyan has a great pace. He's got great takedowns. He's strong. He's quick. He's explosive. I just do not see this guy beating up Charles or hurting him, getting him to the point to where he starts to wilt. Maybe Arman can frustrate him with consistent takedowns, and there's a chance that Charles, with a lack of success, can start to wilt a little bit. But I just think that Oliveira is going to be throwing up submissions. I think that if Arman gets into half guard, Oliveira is going to be good enough to get out of half guard and retain his guard, and I don't think it's a comfortable place to sit in the guard of him. And I just think that Arman's going to realize that this ain't the best place to be. I'm not going to beat this guy up down here. And this Arman doesn't have a submission game either. So I think eventually Arman's just going to let up and get up to his feet like Beneil did, right? When there's some kind of a disengagement and Charles is throwing up kicks or whatever, or Charles is going to be good enough to scramble up to his feet as well. And Charles at this point, crafty. He's had so much experience. He's had that fight with Islam Makhachev in which he got a little bit frustrated and didn't have a lot of success and was just kind of leaping in, leaving himself open. So I think he's going to have a great ability to stay composed. And we know Charles Oliveira's got ridiculous power in his hands. We know this dude has only lost to one person since, 14 fights ago? And that's Makhachev, who going into that fight had the best defense in MMA. Statistically, the best defense in MMA. And now we know what Makhachev's been doing. Knocking out Volk. Outstriking Volk. Arman Tsarukyan, unless he shows up with devastating knockout power out of nowhere, which you never know, it could happen. We've seen guys like Islam Makhachev level up with his offensive striking from one fight to the next. Although he kind of hit his striking a few fights out from that initial title fight with Charles Oliveira. It's possible Arman could really be rapidly improving in the striking. Oliveira has the reach advantage. He's got the big power advantage. Arman's fast. He's fast and he's got good kicks, but the kicks aren't anything crazy. They're not like the most powerful. It's not like he's Jonathan Martinez leg kick TKOing guys or wobbling guys around with low kicks. It's not like he's got the most vicious body kicks in MMA. He's got whippy kicks. He's pretty fast. Maybe he could catch Charles off guard with something. Maybe he could knock him out. I don't think he beats him up on the ground. I think that Charles is good enough to get up or at least take away Arman's ability to have success and nullify the offense. And eventually, Charles is going to catch him with the right hand. Eventually. He's going to catch him with the right hand. He's going to rock Arman Tsarukyan, who's getting rocked by the stiff bodybuilder Joaquim Silva. And I think he knocks him out, knocks him the fuck out, or takes his neck and submits him. Maybe takes his back. Let's not forget, Charles Oliveira could out-grapple Arman and even get on top of him. Like, for example, Mateusz Gamrot did. Mateusz Gamrot had moments where he was on top of Arman Tsarukyan, okay? Mateusz Gamrot took the back of Arman Tsarukyan. You don't want to let Charles do that. And also, I'm not saying Arman isn't good. I'm just saying, like, when I watch him fight, he's a great grappler. He's phenomenal. But on the feet, I just think there are going to be levels, and we've seen it time and time again. Oliveira has shown levels over everyone that's not Islam Makhachev. Listen, the one fight in which he didn't have success because he wasn't able to find the target on the feet against Makhachev. That's not just because there was the threat of the takedown. It's because he just wasn't able to hit him. Makhachev's so defensively sound. Against Gaethje, he didn't have that problem. Against Poirier, he didn't have that problem. I've seen guys like Holloway struggle more to hit Poirier, who did hit Poirier, but struggled more than Charles. Arman Tsarukyan, I don't think he's got the best defense, and I think Charles knocks him out. Okay, hurts him, maybe subs him. What's it going to be? Are you going to tap or are you going to get KO'd? He'll tap or sleep. I'll tell you that. He might get put to sleep and not tap, but he'll tap or sleep in this one. Okay? So Charles Oliveira, second round, keeps his composure in the first, maybe gets out-grappled a little bit, eventually works his way up to his feet, and just catches Arman in the second round, puts him away. Let's get on to the next one. Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway. I am picking Justin Gaethje to beat Max Holloway by decision 48-47 or 49-46. It's going to be somewhat competitive, but this is the thing, man. I know Holloway's fast. Will he be as fast with the added muscle? Okay? Because there's a chance he's not the same Speedy Gonzalez that he's been at 145. Will he be as durable? Yes. I'm not worried about the durability, all right? Gaethje has big power, but he's not necessarily got the nastiest one-shot power. It's not like you get hit by Josh Emmett flush on the chin. You're going out cold every time. Gaethje, you know, he's got a lot of power, but Holloway's got the best chin in the UFC, arguably, and I think that moving up a weight class, taking away the weight cut, it's only going to improve it. So I don't see him getting KO'd. People have gone to this decision with Gaethje. But I do with the new style of Max Holloway, which is much more reserved. It's less of a heavy forward pressure style where he's putting his chin on the firing line and taking as many risks. With the new, more reserved Holloway that's more willing to like do half and half sitting in the pocket boxing, looking to counter, and half staying at range, throwing spinning back kicks and body kicks and whatnot. I just don't see him really creating those moments where he's just going to overwhelm Gaethje like he would need to in order for me to pick him. I think that he's going to be a little bit too reserved and, you know, kind of on the back foot a little bit. Whereas he's also up against Justin Gaethje, who's not going to chase him down like TKZ and just put his chin on a silver platter. Justin Gaethje is a defensive first fighter these days who also is a little bit more reserved. So I think they're going to go tit for tat. I think there's going to be the type of pace that Gaethje can keep up without gassing out, because we always talk about how Holloway's cardio is ridiculous, and it is. But Justin Gaethje has amazing cardio too, and he trains at altitude, right? He looked to be the fresher guy in the second round against Dustin. We know he's gone a hard 5 rounds against Tony Ferguson before as well. When you're not mixing in the takedowns, he doesn't gas out as well. So Holloway with the less heavy forward pressure is going to allow for a pace that is more maintainable for the guy that does already have good cardio in Justin Gaethje. And I just see it being a tit-for-tat battle where even if Holloway outlands him slightly, Gaethje is going to be landing the much harder shots that we are going to notice a lot more. And we're going to see the impact that it has on Holloway more than the shots that are hitting Justin Gaethje, who also has a good chin, who's getting hit with flush knees from Rafael Fiziev and big shots from Poirier, and he stumbled a little bit weird in one moment against Poirier, but it's one little moment and Dustin hits hard. Okay? Holloway moving up a weight class, I don't think he's going to have this newfound power. It's very rare that fighters that don't have power all of a sudden just start knocking dudes out left and right. It's usually the guys that have power that move up still have power. Okay? It's not like Holloway can't put anyone away. He can, but it's rare that we see the Holloway knocking anyone out like he did to TKZ, who, again, so defensively irresponsible with his chin on a silver platter, just asking to get KO'd, basically. It's usually the overwhelming volume style of TKO, like Holloway having Jose Aldo rocked and out of there up against the fence, and Holloway's in there leaning over, just tons of shots, but he doesn't fight like that anymore, man. He doesn't fight like that. He doesn't fight the way he used to fight against guys like Poirier. He's good. He's technical. He's in ways even better. I think he's improved, but I think that Holloway, with his new style, less of a gritty style, it's almost like I see there being less of a chance for him to utilize that chin to get the KO. Because I feel like if he does bite down on the mouthpiece, an older Justin Gaethje that's been out of there for a while, he could knock him out. He could catch him with something clean. He could counter him with something slick. I just don't see it in this fight, man. I think he's going to be a little bit too patient for his own good. But the stars may align because Holloway is really going to get up for this fight. Justin Gaethje's not that scared. He's been saying it. Like, he doesn't expect Holloway to have this chance to, like, knock him out, and he's not terrified like he was when he got the phone call to fight Tony Ferguson or to fight Khabib, and usually he goes into a fight worrying maybe I can get KO'd as well against guys like Michael Chandler. Not against Holloway, though. He said this is not a scary guy. He was even saying, I don't want to beat Holloway up. Before they even made this fight, he was saying, I feel bad to even think about punching this guy. So Holloway doesn't have that issue. Holloway's got a chip on his shoulder. People are doubting him, and when he has a chip on his shoulder, he tends to do well. So don't sleep on him. I will love Holloway to get the win because I'm a much bigger fan of Holloway. I know people are saying this is the type of matchup where I don't want to see anyone lose. I do. I want to see Justin Gaethje lose because I love Max Holloway, and I want to see Holloway win. I like Justin Gaethje. It's not like I want Gaethje to lose, but if it's against Max Holloway, yes. If that means Holloway wins and Holloway doesn't lose, yes. I'm a bigger fan of Holloway, much bigger fan of Holloway. I like Justin Gaethje's style a lot. I'm picking him to win this fight. And the low kicks, Gaethje doesn't throw as many of them, and I don't think it's going to be a huge issue for Max, who used to be open to low kicks and against like guys like Volkanovski, for example, who really made it a point to hammer his legs in that first fight that they had, and that's really what allowed him to win it. Gaethje's throwing like 3 or 4 around these days, but I could see against a skinnier guy like Max, who moves around a lot, Gaethje and his coach are going to make it a point to go at the legs more often than he was doing against his recent opponents. By the way, the people that tell me that I say Justin Gaethje's name incorrectly, how am I saying his name incorrectly? What is it, Justin Gaethje? Am I supposed to say Gaethje? People tell me I say it wrong all the time. If I do, please correct me in the comments, but I don't think I say it wrong. On to the next one, Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan. I'm going with Zhang Weili by decision. She's like the female version of Alexander Volkanovski. Not necessarily got the one-shot knockout power every time, but she's fast on the feet. She basically hits like a guy, and she's got good grappling as well. And I think she might be able to stink this up in half guard, or maybe just beat up Yan Xiaonan with little pitter-pat shots for 5 rounds on the ground. Yan Xiaonan got a nice KO over Jessica Andrade. Zhang Weili's got a granite chin. She's super tough, and she's better than Jessica Andrade. She knocked out Jessica Andrade too in the first round of their fight, which she won her world title with that. It's going to be a cool one. I really think the UFC should have done this in China. 2 Chinese fighters going at it for a belt. I'm going with Zhang Weili, okay? Tried, tested, and proven. You got to go with her. Unless you're banking on a big upset, fluke moment. Not a fluke moment, but just a big upset where Zhang Weili underestimates her and gasses out or gets caught with something crazy and she can't recover. I think she's going to fight smart. I think she's going to have a lot of respect for Yan Xiaonan. Zhang Weili gets done by decision. I'll say 49-46 or 50-45. Let's get on to it. Alex Pereira, Jamahal Hill main event. I'm picking Alex Pereira to KO Jamahal Hill in the 3rd round after a bit of a scrap. Okay? Again, I made a whole video on this, but Jamahal Hill is really open to left hooks. And I initially was going with Jamahal Hill because I thought that he was going to smoke Alex Pereira down the pipe with a nice clean 1-2 from southpaw, and Alex Pereira struggles with guys that can fight at southpaw quite often as well, and Jamahal Hill doesn't always fight at southpaw. He fights out of orthodox as well, but he can fight out of southpaw really well. Upon rewatching Jamahal Hill's fights, not only is he really open to left hooks where he's constantly leaving his power hand down after really overextending on it, or just in general when he's marching forward, but And he doesn't have this really slick 1-2 that I was thinking of. He's got a bit of a sloppy style. He's a little bit unorthodox, but he's less unorthodox than Jiri, for one. And also, you got to think of his movement. Jamahal Hill is a little bit of a plodster, right? Now, we don't really think of him as a plodster. He's not as ploddy as some of the guys like Shamil the Blob Gaziev or whatever, but he kind of waddles forward. And coming off of this Achilles tear, that's going to be an issue, especially when Alex Pereira starts going to his leg. And for sure, there's an argument to be made that if Jamahal Hill's standing southpaw, Pereira's going to be less effective with the low kicks, but he'll still land them. And even when you're switching stances on him, it doesn't matter. You're still going to get your leg minced up. The same thing happened to Adesanya in his first fight with Alex Pereira, where he was switching his stances, and eventually it didn't matter what stance he was in. Every single kick towards the end of that fight was really bothering him, and it was taking away his movement and his power. And I just think that Jamahal Hill, who is not that defensively sound, who leaves himself open quite a lot, is eventually going to overextend on something as he starts to slow down with his movement and he starts to get frustrated with Alex Pereira hammering away at that leg that's been recovering. It's a premature comeback as well for Jamahal Hill. I think he's going to get frustrated, overextend. Alex Pereira clips him with the left hook, and I think he's knocking him the fuck out. I think it's going to be similar to the Strickland KO, where maybe Hill doesn't go out snoring, although it would be cool to see a Alex Pereira one-shot hitter-quitter KO. We haven't seen one in a minute, but either way, I think it's going to be like a Strickland KO. Rocks Jamahal Hill, who has a not all there look, eyes glazed over, doesn't know where he is. Alex Pereira follows up with another shot. Ref steps in, stops it. Third round, maybe second round. I could see it being the second round, but I think it's second round. I said third round earlier. I'm going to go with the second round KO. Like, I could see the later it goes, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but like Jamahal Hill, the later it goes, might just be able to grit through the pain that he's dealing with the low kicks, and he may just be able to make it work. And Alex Pereira may not have the same sting on his shots, but he carries the power late, man. He carries the power late. He's going to be at his best at light heavyweight. I feel like this might be the best Alex is ever going to look at light heavyweight, where he's had a good amount of time to adjust to this weight class since that first fight that he had against Jan Blachowicz, where he kind of just looked like a bit of a fat guy, a fat version of himself. Not a fat guy, but a fat version of himself. Now he's had 2 fights up there. He's had a long time to prepare for this. He's fighting someone that's taking this premature opportunity where he's not necessarily 100% recovered from his Achilles injury. I think that it's possible that Jamahal grits through the pain and eventually just salts his way to a KO and just blasts through Alex Pereira up against the fence and just doesn't care about the left hook. But I mean, it's not that you just can't not care. You're going to get clipped eventually, and I just don't think he could take as many of them. I think Jamahal Hill most likely needs a KO early, okay? I think he needs to start fast, and I think he needs to knock Alex out in like the first or second round. But eventually, Pereira's going to clip him. I don't think he can avoid the left hook for that long. It's not like his defense is that amazing. He gets hit quite a lot in his fights. I don't think he could take that left. So, yep, I've said it a million times, but Alex Pereira, second round KO, left hook. That is it for my UFC 300 predictions. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Until next time.